Hey guys, my name is Cheyenne Shrimpton. I'm 24 years old, a mother of 3 beautiful, amazing little baby boys. So I kind of want to get into YouTube just to see how it is. I want to like kind of maybe vlog my life, or just make like little story times here and there, or do challenges. Who knows? But I just want to kind of do a little story time about how I gave birth to my twins. So, I'm 24 years old, found out I was pregnant. This isn't my first children. I have my firstborn. But right now we're going to be talking about how I gave birth to my twins. And so, yeah, so when I found out I was pregnant, I was so sick, like real sick. And so I went for my first ultrasound. The nurse is like, how's your pregnancy going? And I'm like, kind of crap. And she's like, oh, sorry to hear that. She's, doing her ultrasound kind of thing. And she's like, well, this is probably why you're sick. And so I was like, oh, okay. So she turns on the monitor, and I found out I'm having twins. And the baby dad was right. He says, he's like, I knew it. I told you we were going to have twins. He's like, watch, they're going to be both boys, and they're both going to be born on our son's first birthday. And I was like, oh my God, freaking out. So anyways, that happened. And let's go back, like my whole pregnancy, I was so sick, so nauseous, threw up everything, like everything. And then I went for my last ultrasound, and they're just checking on the babies, see how they're growing, if they're growing at the same rates. And I found out that baby B was not growing as fast as baby A. And so they were like, oh, well, I think it's best if you give birth, like get induced, have the babies. And I was like, today? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, oh my God. And so went to Foothills Hospital here in Calgary, Alberta, where I had my first son. They thought I was having a C-section, but the baby A was head down, so I was like, I want to try and do it naturally as possible. And they're like, oh, okay, well, we'll see if we have room. They checked, no room, unfortunately, so they called other hospitals. Other hospitals didn't have room. And so they found a hospital. It's way in the South Health Campus. Amazing hospital, I would say. And so yeah, we get there, and the baby dad had to stay home with our first son. So it's my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law that came. And the doctors there and nurses are absolutely amazing, and like the hospital is like beautiful. And so we get up, get me checked in, whatnot, and they're like, are you hungry? Do you want to go eat first? And I was like, I can eat. Because with my first son's pregnancy, I wasn't allowed to eat or anything. So I was like, oh yeah, definitely. I'm like so hungry. Went downstairs, got something to eat, came back up, got ready. So they got me all gowned up, whatnot. Sorry about the lighting, it sucks. And yeah, and then they were trying to break my water. And trust me, it hurts if you don't have an epidural in, I guess you would say. Because you feel everything, and it's like a freaking hook that goes up your hoo-ha. And I'm like, oh my God, that hurts. Like, oh my God. And so they're like, oh, we can't break his water, his cord's near his head. And they explained the whole thing. Like, if they broke my water and he hit the cord, there's a possibility of him dying. They would, TMI, have to shove their hand up my hoo-ha just to be able to keep him alive while they brought me down to surgery. And I was like, okay. So they come back half an hour later, do like a little ultrasound, see that the cord's not there, break my water, wham bam, done. They get me on the oxytocin. Half an hour later, they're like, would you like the epidural? I think it's best. I'm like, yeah. Let's have the epidural. Do that. Felt amazing after, because I was starting to feel contractions. And then yeah, the whole night we just like chill, relax, you know, talk it out. It's like 6 in the morning, and I'm like, girls, I feel like I have to poop. So they run and get the doctors check, and they're like, oh yeah, you're like 9 centimeters. So they bring me down to the operating room, and yeah, and they're like, they checked again, and they're like, okay, well, you're still thin, but you're not thin enough. I was like, oh shit, okay. And then and then they're like, let's play some music while we wait. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So they do that, and then not even maybe 20 minutes later, they check me and they're like, okay, you're ready to push. And that's when I was like, oh my god, like, this is happening, like, oh. So they check me, they're like, okay, start pushing, push, and I'm like pushing for like 20 minutes, like, and it all of a sudden, at 7:06, my first twin was born, Adam. And I was like, oh my god, like, so in love, you know, emotions, like how I felt when my first son. And then twin B, which is my son Richard, was still sideways. And they're like, if he stays sideways, you're gonna need a C-section, which I had a C-section in my first pregnancy. We can always get to that to another story time. But so I was like, oh my god. So they're like, we're gonna try and like turn him for you. I was like, okay. So they end up like pushing on my stomach, and they looked and they're like, yeah, he's ready to come out. He's gonna come out feet first. And I was like, okay. Sounds good. And they're like, okay, push. And not even, I think, like 2 pushes. Wham, bam. My second son, Richard, came out, and they both put them on my chest, and oh my god, I was in tears. I was so happy. And my sister-in-law, she got to cut both those cords, and it was like, she's like, that was the most crazy experience of my life. But yeah, I was 35 weeks, so the babies had to go in the NICU. So they went in the NICU, and I went upstairs. I recovered for a little bit. Finally got up, went to go see my babies, told the dad how everything went. He was happy, he was excited. And I got to see my babies in the NICU, and they were doing good, doing healthy. You know, stayed 2 weeks in the NICU. Amazing. I was there every day, like every day. I could not leave. Like, I would be there from morning till night. And then, yeah, after 2 weeks, I got to bring them home. And after that, now they're 6, almost 7 months, and they're growing perfectly. And, you know, if you guys want to see more, I can do more videos of showing them. So, yeah. Let me know if you guys want some more story times.